As Dominic Toretto once said, "This is the most important thing we have in life." Family should help everyone in life. It can be large or small, typical or not very typical, as long as these people are truly close. You are on the Top Facts channel, and today we will look at 20 of the strangest families of the modern era. Whether to judge them or not is for you to decide. How do you think nature's lottery for distributing children works? How many times can the same gender of a newborn be repeated? The Brett family from Great Britain showed maximum patience and perseverance to get through this game to their desired result. The woman dreamed of having a daughter, but she gave birth to 10 sons in a row. There were many boys in her home together with her husband. But then, with the 11th attempt, she finally gave birth to the girl she had been hoping for. If we take simple statistics, she spent 8 years in a state of pregnancy in order to have 11 children. But giving birth to boys 10 times in a row, even by the theory of probability, that is hard to believe. And yet it happened. Although now they have finished trying and consider their family unit complete, and the boys will need to learn how to care for their little sister. Seriously, the courage and determination of this woman are admirable. Going through 11 pregnancies just to give birth to a girl. I am sure not everyone would want to try so many times, and I doubt many have the chance to give birth to 10 children of the same gender in a row. At first, the Radford family seemed ordinary, having a new child each year, until the number of children reached a staggering figure. Yes, it happens. Everything goes as usual. They married, decided to have children, then more and more, and by the time of the 2022 year, they had 22 children. Over this time, some have already grown up and do not live with them under one roof, and this slightly eases the burden of parenting. At the word expenses, just multiply everything by 22, and you will understand what it is like to support at home an entire class of toddlers, school children, and students. You really have to wonder how they managed to survive at all. But their fame obviously helped them find support. The mother of this brood notes that every day is a hard workout for her, to make everyone act and do what is needed to keep such a family in order. Can you imagine their everyday life? Even just doing laundry or cooking. It seems as though there should be special helpers, each responsible for their own department. This family could completely populate some island. The Guinness Book of World Records recognized the family of Ziona Chana from India as the largest family in the world. At the time of his 75th birthday, he had 39 wives, and with the number of children and grandchildren, the total number of family members amounted to 181 people. Ziona Chana, the head of the largest family in the world, says he feels chosen and considers his family a blessing. The huge and friendly company of relatives lives among the hills in the village of Baktwang in the Indian state of Mizoram and occupies one 4-story home with 100 rooms. The wives of the greatest family man in the world sleep in a common bedroom like in a dormitory, and the school is located right in the house. This community is a constant lure for television crews. You could even make a multi-episode reality show with them. But it is important to understand that we are not just talking about a large family, but about a unique way to fill one's life. Ziona Chana ensured them the fame of the largest family in all modern history and lived 76 years surrounded by numerous relatives. I do not know how he had enough energy to maintain peaceful polygamy, to support 38 wives, communicate with nearly 100 children, and pay attention to dozens of grandchildren. I even doubt he remembered all their names. Let me reveal a secret. This phenomenon was favored by a religious sect that had about 2,000 followers, and the person who founded this ideology, or in simple terms, brewed this porridge, was Ziona Chana's grandfather. Now, the descendants will have to deal with the consequences and somehow arrange the life of the big house without the head of the family. Which traits of your parents are most strongly reflected in your appearance? Maybe you inherited their hair or eyes, as well as certain facial expressions or mannerisms passed down by heredity, or perhaps their height. Genetics is truly random when it comes to predicting external inheritance. But there certainly exist genetic defects that pass from generation to generation, like an error in a computer program. Such is the case with this family from India, where all relatives suffer from the same genetic disorder, achondroplasia. This hereditary condition, known since ancient times, causes short-leggedness and dwarfism. The bones of the legs do not develop. As you can imagine, this significantly complicates everyone's life, since the conveniences of the world are not designed for those whose height is so low. Not to mention the moral side of suffering from dwarfism. Teasing and comments are guaranteed whenever they go out in public. Perhaps only within such a family are these excluded. The head of the family said that in public they always have to answer tactless questions. For example, why they are so short. They are constantly teased, and the problems go far beyond physical inconveniences. Because of their height, finding work in India is difficult. One of these little people even worked as a master of ceremonies at weddings, but people looked at him strangely and doubted whether he could fulfill his duties. This family has to pay for nature's mishaps, in which they are probably not at fault at all, unless their ancestors once mocked someone for being excessively tall. Who knows, since in India they firmly believe in karma, which must be worked off. Unlike the family of the shortest people in India, here we have the other side of the coin. The Kulkarni couple with their children are known as the tallest family in India. The head of the family is 2 meters 18 centimeters tall. His wife is 191 centimeters, and their daughters are 185 and 195 centimeters. If you add up their heights, the total would be almost 8 meters. The spouses initially set a world record as the tallest couple in the world, but then someone beat them by 1 inch, which discouraged them by the loss of their title. They said it was nice to receive recognition, which means a lot when your life is so different from others. Still, they never stop rejoicing that they found each other. Honestly, in India, being a tall woman is especially difficult. You simply cannot be taller than a man without being subjected to ridicule. The Kurdish Ulas family lives in Turkey and consists of 19 people, children, and their parents, 5 of whom move on their hands and feet, that is, on all fours. It looks more than strange, but they have to live this way not by choice. A hereditary ailment in their bodies does not allow them to straighten up and walk in the usual manner. They had to adapt to reality and master a bear-like way of moving. They can cover many kilometers this way, but still, nobody would want to imitate them. It is curious that this condition affected an entire family, as if they were thrown back into the era of an ancient human ancestor. The British Broadcasting Corporation even created and showed a documentary film about this family. One can only imagine how difficult it is to live with such a manner of movement compared to bipedal, upright walking people, no matter how strange that sounds. Let's put aside jokes for a while about how 2 heads are better than 1, because you are about to see something truly astonishing. To such an extent that not all of you will be able to calmly look at this situation. Sisters Abigail and Brittany Hensel are conjoined twins who, physically remaining one being, lead a quite normal life. They have 1 body for 2 heads, 2 brains, and 2 personalities. Now that is truly a phenomenal challenge for human life. Fortunately, their parents turned out to be not only caring, but also loving and understanding. At first, they made their life as private as possible. They did not want their children to be ridiculed and scorned by society. But over time, the twins managed to cope with their body and even do many things like ordinary children study at school and socialize. Obviously, the question of surgery is not relevant. It would be fatal for both. And if you asked them whether they would like to separate their bodies, you would hear that the sisters would never want to be apart. They can play softball, run, and even work. After graduating from college, they received a teaching degree and became teachers for 4th and 5th grade students. Their amazing example shows that people considered strange and truly unique can still find a way to live a full life if their health and physical conditions allow it. The conjoined twins. Chang and Eng Bunker were born in the year 1811 in Siam to a Chinese father and a Malay mother. It was by their example that such cases came to be called Siamese twins. The brothers were born joined at the chest area, and at that time there were no medical technologies to separate them. In our time, such an operation would succeed easily. The twins became Americans and gained such popularity that they toured the world to showcase their physical condition and increase their income. They were also examined by every medical expert, but although the brothers could not go into separate rooms, they managed to live a full life and even marry. In these marriages, 21 children were born, none inheriting the pathology. How is that possible, you ask? Honestly, I cannot imagine it either. Piebaldism? That is the name of a rare hereditary pathology, a pigment metabolism disorder when there remains a colorless area of skin and a strand of hair in the center of the head, on the face, and on the forehead, as well as irregular pigmentation throughout the body. This congenital trait is somewhat similar to the more well-known skin condition vitiligo, but it affects only the skin. As you can see from the example of this family from Brazil, the condition makes them stand out in any crowd, and some people might even think that they colored themselves this way for some reason. No, this is a condition they have to live with every day, but they accept their uniqueness and inspire admiration in many by how calmly they treat looking different. They do not try to hide their white spots with makeup. Which one of us would be ready to accept such a challenge and live happily? When we say someone has problems with their hands, we mean that the person cannot do something well. But when you actually have hands, you can consider yourself lucky. Not everyone receives the proper body from nature. Some are deprived of the very essentials to live normally. There is nothing funny if you imagine how a person can get by without both arms. A 35-year-old Linda Bannon and her 9-year-old Timmy were both born with Holt-Oram syndrome. This is a rare condition that affects bone growth. Mother and son were born with the same ailment. They came into the world without arms. The woman had to adapt, and she learned to use her feet as hands. She brushed her hair with them, brushed her teeth, and so forth. She did not refuse to do housework and participate in family activities. She managed to get married and give birth to a son, but unfortunately, he inherited the condition, and now the young man has to repeat his mother's experience, learning to manage with his legs instead of arms. As you can see, he can even write and do homework. Timmy is not at all embarrassed to be among people, and he even earned the nickname Mr. President for his sociability. This family is an instructive example of strength of spirit and unity. Thanks to their desire to live and mutual support, they overcome difficulties unimaginable to billions of people in the world. Now we risk stepping onto the territory of horror films. The monsters you see could be members of one family that reproduced descendants within their own family lines for generations. This is called inbreeding, and it is considered a dangerous violation of the laws of nature. Diversity is provided to protect the strength of the human genetic code, and if the lineage is not renewed, it can lead to the degeneration of the family line and the acquisition of terrible genetic breakdowns and diseases, resulting in people losing a normal appearance. You cannot ignore the rules, marriages, and connections within one's own family harm descendants at the level of the entire lineage. It is no coincidence that aristocratic dynasties, which for centuries practiced kinship marriages to maintain pure blue blood, either degenerated or their heirs suffered severe ailments and physical deformities. Here is a simple example: the Habsburg jaw, a hideously deformed lower face that formed as a result of incest. In the modern world, there is a story about an Australian family that, as a result of constant inbreeding, began to look like a group of sinister zombies from a cemetery. Their genetic code broke down so severely that they had to live in the backwoods and rob people to survive. I will be brief here, because this story is definitely not one you would want to talk about at length. It is simply too much. Here is a real situation, quite strange and unsightly, because it seems to contradict any modern traditions. A daughter fell in love with her father and entered into a relationship with him, resulting in the birth of 2 children. It is unsettling even to look at photos where they kiss. The most remarkable thing is that neither of them considers what happened to be abnormal. None admitted that there was something wrong with their relationship. Apparently, this proves that something is absolutely not right with both of them. If you want another shocking plot twist, the mother of the young woman eventually ended up in prison after causing the death of her daughter. This is such an unthinkable story with sad, instructive consequences. Another unsightly inbreeding story is the example of the Whittaker's family from Great Britain. But there is a more tragic emphasis here. Living in isolation from the rest of society, this family, as a result of interbreeding the genes of close relatives, accumulated the full bouquet of genetic defects, which can be seen on the faces of the descendants. Yes, Freddy Krueger is now somewhere very close. Many family members have various deformities or anomalies in their bodies and minds, and this makes their life difficult. It is hard to support such a company, plus dogs as well, but it seems they themselves made their choice and ended up in a difficult situation. Charles Manson was a well-known American manipulator, criminal, and serial killer who, in the 60s of the 20th century, created a destructive cult and called it the Family. He wanted to force its members to commit cruel murders of other people, motivating them by a guarantee of their entry into a new era after the imminent apocalypse. In fact, his followers were so devoted to him that they committed terrible crimes and even went out to kill people, arranging a night of horror in the streets. Everyone remembers the high-profile murder of film director Roman Polanski's wife, Sharon, who was in her final month of pregnancy. One can blame hypnosis or susceptibility to the cult of personality, but speaking of Manson, he is undoubtedly one of the scariest and strangest figures in the criminal world. Now, let us move on to couples who either did not want to be like everyone else or who naturally look strange. Pixie Fox and Justin Jedlicka. These two names mean nothing to you, right? And correctly so, because in their community they are better known as the Living Barbie and Ken. These guys did nothing for their fame to thunder around the world for their deeds. Unless you count that they mutilated themselves with plastic surgeries in pursuit of a doll-like ideal. I will not mince words and will simply say that I consider it complete nonsense and stupidity. In reality, it is even painful to look at them. Although they may indeed resemble dolls that have come to life and conquered the world of celebrities, up close, they look more like plastic. Seriously, these two were normal, ordinary people until one day they had the idea that they needed to become a better version. And for a model, they chose what seemed to them the perfect appearance. Many people undergo plastic surgery to feel more beautiful, but everything has a reasonable limit. Just look at that waist. Pixie's body looks unnaturally compressed. Can any woman in the world envy that? It seems that she could break in half like a twig at any moment. Justin does not look much better, although it is certainly easier for him to live. He does not have to carry extra kilograms of silicone. Doctors keep these two under observation because they have clearly developed an addiction to plastic surgery, and it is becoming quite noticeable now. Sometimes in a fit of anger, you might call some family members bloodsuckers, but now we will show you those who really did not suck their story out of thin air. An eccentric couple, Leah Benninghoff and Arrow Draven, with an age difference of 18 years, met in a rather ordinary way on a dating site. What brought them closer was that they both belonged to the Gothic movement. After becoming a couple, they went further. Initially, the man behaved like a vampire. The girl found this trait excitingly attractive, although she did not fully realize that vampires really exist. It is strange why she was not scared off when the situation escalated into a bloody direction. Maybe she instinctively wanted to be a victim? Just 3 weeks after their courtship, Arrow proposed to her, and she agreed. Well, everyone has different ideas of romance, but agreeing to become the wife of a vampire meant that she also needed to become a vampire. They conducted a ritual at the witching hour, which falls at 3 hours of the night. Arrow made cuts on himself so that the bride could taste his blood, and then she did the same in return. Thus, they exchanged vampire vows of love. Another pair of madmen with an aggravated sense of beauty. Victor Hugo Peralta from Uruguay and his wife Gabriela from Argentina underwent a total of many body modifications, using a peculiar method of adornment. Piercings, tattoos, stretches, as well as incisions, and who knows what else. These spouses broke a world record. Together they underwent 77 manipulations, 50 piercings, 11 body implants, 5 dental implants, 4 ear stretchers, 2 ear bolts, and 1 split tongue. Agree, this is more than the most sophisticated devotees of ancient indigenous traditions. Even representatives of the Mayan civilization on the eve of the end of the world did not try so hard. In my opinion, this looks more like mutilation of one's body rather than improvement or a fashion trend. But as they say, tastes differ. What is beautiful to some is ugly to others. So while this couple frightens local residents, they themselves find it terribly attractive. Kate Cathcart and Darren Donaghy. Another strange couple, but for a completely different reason. Looking at them, you might wonder why such a beautiful woman chose this man as a partner. He clearly does not possess the appearance of a movie hero. They met on a television show called Punch Above Your Weight, a program about people dating those considered more attractive, and soon after they married. But if you asked Kate whether she considers herself a beauty, you would hear a no in response. Moreover, she's convinced that her appearance is nothing special, and she even had to endure bullying at school. Therefore, she never had an inflated sense of self-importance. This allowed her to look beyond outward beauty and evaluate a person by their personal qualities, not by their face. Her husband looks very happy, and when you see such a discrepancy in a couple, you might suspect something like unfair play or insincere intentions. This time, let us put aside doubts. It truly looks like real love. Considering everything I have shown you before, this couple is simply the most colorful of all. A bodybuilder named Anton Kraft managed to prove that his life is not defined by his height of 1 meter 21 centimeters. He really is the strongest bodybuilder of his kind in the world, considering how much he can bench press. When he tried to find love, he met China Bell, who turned out to be a transgender woman. Probably not what you expected. Even so, Kraft says he is the happiest guy in the world, given that he and his partner really do look happy together. If they found true love in this cruel world, who are we to judge? Rapunzel, let down your hair. This phrase is from the fairy tale about a girl locked in the tower, to whom a prince could only climb up by using her long locks. This striking image from Disney culture has permeated television shows and even video games, as well as inspired many attempts to emulate the heroine of the cartoon. But have you ever wondered if someone can really grow such long hair? A woman named Terry Russell may not have hair long enough for a man to climb a tower, but it does not matter. She already has a husband. And her luxurious mane of hair about 3 meters long is her personal pride, which she willingly demonstrates. There are also difficulties when she washes her head. She basically has to sit on the floor because the hair becomes so heavy that it is impossible to stand with it. This is not a complete family story, but her daughters also have long hair, from 79 to 90 centimeters. Terry's husband, who has short hair like their younger son, said that when he first saw a girl with such hair, she seemed incredibly attractive to him. He knows that his wife keeps her hair long for him, and he truly appreciates it. Yes, in fact, she continued to grow her hair out because she understands how much her husband admires it. But over the years, I suppose the hair saga is no longer so relevant, since genuine love is not about appearance. This family is doing well. And, of course, as you might have guessed, Terry works as a hairdresser. This family is called the Big Tongues. Indeed, they are the owners of outstandingly plump tongues and even hold record titles. Meet Byron Schlenker and his teenage daughter Emily. Both hold world records for having the widest tongue in the world. Honestly, they really are huge. Byron's tongue reaches a colossal 8.6 centimeters in width, and his daughter Emily is not far behind. Her tongue is 7.3 centimeters wide. They constantly have to stick them out to confirm their title. Imagine, people are actually interested in this. Did any of these stories remind you of your own family, or, on the contrary, did you think that your loved ones are simply angels and that you should treat them more kindly? And if you know someone who should be added to this episode, be sure to write about it in the comments. That is how our episode turned out. If you enjoyed it and want to see the next part or something similar, write about it in the comments, put likes, subscribe to Top Facts for the most incredible compilations of facts and videos from all over the internet. Thank you for watching, and check out the 2 previous top-notch episodes.